You guys were able to grab some lunch. If you haven't, there's snacks out there and lunch around the corner. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. All PowerPoint files that were preloaded are preloaded on the laptop. They're available on the ACC site. And this program does not have CLE credits, but it's a fantastic program. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Yvonne Heard to you, and she is going to be doing the Mindfulness 101 session. Okay. So she'll introduce herself.
Thank you so much. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. All right, so here's the thing. There are not a ton of people in this room, and that's okay. I'm not taking it personally because I understand the power of CLE credits as a lawyer, but I am going to have this session be a little bit interactive. So if you guys want to move up just a little bit, I would greatly appreciate it because, yeah, and you're going to greatly appreciate it. You don't have to, it's up to you, but, you know, because I can't force you to do anything. We're not doing that. I'm not getting sued in a room full of lawyers, but I am going to have this session be a little bit more intimate just because we can be. Why not, right? So thank you so much to my gracious host for introducing me. Before I introduce myself, I have a question. Is there anybody here, one or two people, who would like to introduce themselves to the group that's in the room? Don't all volunteer at once. Don't all be scared. Anybody? Anybody want to introduce themselves?
I actually forgot to introduce myself up there.
Go for it. Anybody else want to show their greatness and introduce themselves? It's fine if you don't. It's not a big deal. Okay. Thank you, Joel. I appreciate that. Okay. So the reason that I had people introduce themselves is because I was curious in terms of how is it that people, and when I say people, I mean us in this room, how do we show up? How is it that we present ourselves? If I had to introduce myself, I would say, I'm Yvonne Renae Heard. I am a self-driven, motivated entrepreneur who has a passion for teaching people how to live the best life that they possibly can. And I also work at the Wilson Human Capital Group as counsel. That would be how I would introduce myself, because I think that, and I know that, one of the things that is a big crux when it comes to mindfulness is how we see ourselves. And the reason that it is so huge in terms of how we see ourselves and why that plays such a role with mindfulness is because how we see ourselves determines our thoughts, right? So you have an idea, you have a thought, you have a feeling about that thought, and then you take action based on whatever those most motivating factors are. But every single last person in this room, and you know, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're all lawyers, right? We've all kind of been shaped in the world that we live in by outside factors. Like, unless you live like on planet Mars, which you don't, you're here on Earth, we're all shaped by outside factors. As a lawyer, we are additionally shaped by outside factors. Some of those things being, you know, just the concept of going to law school, the concept of getting into law school, what happened when we were in law school. I know for me personally, I was taught that I needed to compete in law school. That may not have been your story, but I think that that's a common occurrence that happens among most lawyers. There's an understanding that there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers, and that it's really kind of up to you to kind of like make your presence known and kind of rise to the cream of the top. So as a result of that, there's a lot of pressure on us, and that pressure has been instilled in us literally. And here's the other thing too, let's be real. If you are a lawyer, like you probably were like this type A personality in undergrad, or you were just like this go-getter, you know, in your previous career, but there had to be that motivating factor to get you to this point. And then you're shaped by it, and we're all shaped by it. So what I want to remind everybody And this is the crux of it. And I really wasn't going to go there, but I was like, I think I have to go there. You are so much more. Every single person in this room is so much more than just the lawyer that works at fill in the blank company. You're more than the mom. You're more than the dad. You're more than whatever it is, fill in the blank. You came here on this earth as a human, as a spiritual being who is having a human experience. So it's just important to understand that, to understand the crux of where your thoughts are coming from. So I wanted to start off with that, okay? So that's my woo-woo session. We're gonna not get a little woo-woo now. So we're gonna talk about what mindfulness is. I think that mindfulness and the concept of mindfulness has been a huge buzz as of late. There's a lot of talk about manifestation, a lot of talk about mindfulness, a lot of talk about, how this relates to just us in the wellness state in terms of how we deal with people, how we deal with our families, how we deal with our jobs. And I know for me, if you would have asked me a couple of years ago how I got involved in mindfulness and what mindfulness was, I probably would have rolled my eyes. I probably would have said, well, it's that little thing that comes up on my iWatch and it says, have you practiced mindfulness yet? I would have felt like it's like this daunting task. It's one more thing that I have to do on top of the 50 million things that I have to do in my daily life. And I don't feel like dealing with it, And so I want to share a little bit about what mindfulness actually is, because mindfulness isn't really these things. I know these are the images that I think a lot of people associate with mindfulness. It's like you got to be sitting somewhere in a hut on a tree, or with your fingers touching and your legs crossed. And I know for me, this feels like a lot. This is not how I practice mindfulness. If you happen to practice mindfulness in this way, that's great. But this actually isn't mindfulness, believe it or not. These are kind of representations of people practicing things to make them more mindful, but it is not mindfulness. So mindfulness is actually about becoming self-aware in the present moment and deliberately choosing the experience you're going to have in that moment. That's exactly what mindfulness is. It's about making the choice about the thought that you're going to have. So I know for me, when I became corporate counsel, a little bit of background, I initially started my career as a criminal prosecutor. And one of the things that I noticed the most when I was a criminal prosecutor, and I did that job for 10 years, right? One of the things that I noticed is that the majority of the crimes that were committed were done as a result of people not being able to mind their thoughts and being able to control their thoughts and lack of emotional regulation. And I thought to myself, so many crimes, so many issues, so many incidents could actually be prevented if people just took a second and actually got grounded and actually thought about what they were doing and actually felt what they were doing as opposed to taking that action. So for me, that's how I got into the world of mindfulness. That's how I started studying. That's how I started learning more about how to ground myself, because I felt like it was needed. And it actually led me to the world of contracts. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but initially, when I was a prosecutor in the DA's office in Philadelphia, my goal was to be a homicide prosecutor. I was trying all the cases. I was trying a ton of crazy shootings and stuff. And I was like, okay, if this is my life and this is where I have to go, this is good. I got out of law school right in 2008 at the crux of the financial crisis. So there really wasn't a lot of places for me to go in terms of employment opportunities. If you had a job at that point, you were grateful for the job and you kept it. So for me, I kind of thought that my fate was solidified and that I was supposed to be this prosecutor. One day I got a phone call from a colleague that I went to law school with, and she asked me if I was interested in drafting contracts for a company called Aramark. I had no idea how to draft a contract. The last time that I had dealt with a contract was when I signed my leasing agreement a couple of years before. I was like, I took contracts in law school. Maybe I can make it work. But I ended up taking the job because at that point, my office was going through a turmoil. If you were in Philadelphia around like 2016, 2015, you know the issues that we were having with our then district attorney, and like things were just crazy. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna take this. And I took the job and learned that my life prior was super stressful. Like I had no idea how stressed I was and how much energy I was exerting into my life by being a criminal prosecutor. You know, my life was literally inundated with, you know, crime, with talking to police officers, with going to crime scenes. I found that fun. Like I was like, oh, we'll go to this crime scene and we'll check this out for the weekend. It actually wasn't a way to live life. So when I got to the corporate world, and it was a complete 180, but I was calmer. I welcomed it. I said, wait a minute, so you mean all I have to do is send an email? Like, and once I learned how to send email, because that's another thing, I didn't know how to send an email because I didn't send an email as a prosecutor. But once I actually learned how to do my job as counsel for a corporate company, I was like, oh, this is lovely. This is great. I enjoy this. Then what happened, I started getting around other counsel. I started going to ACC events. And people would come to me all the time in ACC events, and I would say, well, I was a district attorney for 10 years, and then I started working at Aramark, and they would always look at me like I had 3 heads. And they would say, well, how did you get that job? Like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, what do you mean, how did I do that? And they're like, well, how did you learn how to do the contracts? And I said, I don't know. I just locked myself in a room one day and figured it out. I don't know. And then they're like, oh, okay. So then I would meet another person. They would say, oh, well, you never worked for a law firm. So how did you learn how to do this job? And I was like, well, wait, well, no, I never worked for a law firm, but, you know, I worked at the DA's office and I was always on my feet and always did things. And so after a while, these conversations really started to bother me. And I developed imposter syndrome. I developed this like, well, wait a minute. Well, am I really good enough to be here? Am I really good enough to be corporate counsel? I mean, I didn't work at a law firm, but, you know, I did have a very challenging job. So I don't know. So I started having these thoughts and feelings about my own self-worth and my own capabilities in the legal field. And it wasn't until one day, and if you worked at Aramark, I see one of my former Aramark colleagues here. If you worked at Aramark, you know, we had a very complicated financial system. And one day I didn't click a button in Salesforce. And I got a talking to from my boss. And I was like, holy shit, they figured it out. I don't belong here. They were right all along. I'm not designed to be corporate counsel. I'm not supposed to be here. Holy fuck. Well, that was probably the first time that I actually decided to practice mindfulness, if I'm 100% honest. It was something that I had studied, but it was never something that I had practiced. But in that particular moment, I was aware of the thought that I had. I was aware of this idea of you're not good enough to be a corporate lawyer. And then I had the thought, okay, maybe I'm not good enough to be a corporate lawyer. So let me continue to, you know, I'm doing things, but I feel like I'm going to get found out. Then it led to an action of honestly, you know, me missing a button or something that quite frankly, a lot of people miss. But I also think that there was a little bit of a spotlight on me because I did not have a law firm background. So what I did, and I never forget, I went into the corner of my office and I sat and I visualized and I said, how do you want this situation to be? Because this can turn out in one or two ways. You can go down this spiral of woe is me, and oh my God, my life is crumbling, and oh my God, like I'm not supposed to be here. Or you can make the decision in terms of how you want this situation to turn out. Because I have a saying that everything always works out for my greatest good. And I encourage everybody in this room to adopt that statement. Everything always works out for my greatest good, even if it feels like it's not at the moment. And that's the key. So I sat in the corner of that office and I closed my eyes and I visualized. And I had this image of everything working out and everything coming into place. And then what I did was I let it go. At that moment, I was like, okay, like we're gonna let it go. I did the best that I could, and we're gonna move on. So at that point, I started doing what I do best, which is communicating with people and talking to people. So I reached out to one of the salespeople and I said, listen, I kind of fucked this up. You know, we haven't signed this contract yet, but this is the situation. Can you help me? And she was like, what's the problem? So I explained it to her and she said, oh my God, that's easy. I'll fix it. I'll fix it right away. So she called a meeting with the client. I met with the client, told them the circumstances, and they were like, oh, that's all you need? Okay, we'll fix it. Crisis averted. So when I go to my boss and I hand him the contract and I'm like, oh, we fixed it. He's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, we fixed it. And he's like, and I'm like, no, crisis is averted. It's fine. But I really believe that it was me taking a second and becoming self-aware. And that moment, choosing a different thought and choosing what it is that I wanted my reality to be. I didn't necessarily know how it was going to happen, but I knew I wasn't about to go into this spiral of, oh my God, I don't belong here, because I 100% belong here. I 100% earned every single bit of where I am. And so have you all. If you're here and if you're ever doubting yourself about anything, like it's all bullshit. It's all outside noise that we've all been programmed with. And so that's really like the crux of what I want everybody here to remember. So let's talk about why lawyers should practice mindfulness. Why is it important for us to practice mindfulness? I think it kind of goes without saying, like, as I was stating before, we work very, very stressful jobs. And not only do we work very, very stressful jobs, sometimes we forget the fact that we were people outside of that JD, that we're people outside of the Esquire, that we're people outside of the job. I know for me, coming up, going to law school, getting that job, the career was one of the most important things that you could have, because it literally solidified you as a person. It guaranteed your status in society. And then don't get me started on the promotions. Okay, well, am I getting promoted to VP? Am I getting promoted to Associate General Counsel? Maybe I'm going for General Counsel this year. All these things are constantly plaguing us, regardless if we know it or not, because we've been taught to compete. And I have a secret for you. Competition actually isn't real. It's not real. It's something that was designed to kind of put people in certain places, because let's be real, it benefits certain people for there to be winners and losers. But in all honesty, I really believe that every single person on this earth has something amazing that they're supposed to be doing in life. So as long as you're following that path and you're being authentic to yourself, you're always winning. But we're kind of taught to go for the one thing. Everybody goes for this one thing, and if you don't get it, sorry, you lost. And then you're caught feeling less than for whatever the reason is. So just as a general thing, like a lot of these issues that are on the screen, these are the reasons why lawyers should practice mindfulness. Burnout, stress, imposter syndrome, like that situation that I was talking about, that I was experiencing with myself. Feeling overwhelmed. I mean, even right now, because I'm still corporate counsel, even though I am a manifestation mentor, I still work as a corporate counsel currently. And I look at my email and sometimes I just want to close my computer, because it can be overwhelming. It can be so much, and it can feel like everything is literally coming down on you at once. But what you have to remember is that everybody is experiencing similar things, but different things at the same time. Everybody is shaped by the outside world. Everybody is shaped by, what's going on in their lives. So it's literally a matter of taking that in and understanding that and going at your own pace and understanding that you're not losing your job. Nothing crazy is going to happen. It's not like the world is not coming to an end if you can't answer all the emails at once. And I'm talking to myself right now. The world is not going to collapse if you can't answer all the emails. It's going to be fine. So, and then lives. I mean, I think that so often we are expected to be the grown-ups in the room at all time. We are expected to be the ones that always have the answers. We're expected to be the ones that can always show up and can always provide guidance if somebody or if two people in a corporation are having like a difference of opinions. We're the ones that are supposed to show up and provide that knowledge, right? But we have our own lives. We have our own things that we have to accomplish. We have our own things that we have to do. We have kids, we have responsibilities, we have aging parents. Like all these things play a role. So, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer why lawyers should practice mindfulness, but I don't really think that the legal culture as it stands is very open to it. And I appreciate the ACC, this is a side note, I appreciate the ACC for taking the road in terms of opening up this world to wellness, because we as lawyers go through so much mental turmoil, and then we have some of the highest rates of alcoholism, we have high rates of drug abuse, we have so many things that we experience on the tail end, but we got that law degree. Minding your thoughts, practicing mindfulness is so important for us. So let's talk about some of the benefits of practicing mindfulness. So obviously, reduce stress. When you literally go inside and you take a minute and you determine how you want your thoughts to be and how you want to show up in the world, I swear, like, things calm down so much. I personally have a morning routine, and I have a rule that I can't talk to people until a certain time of day. But my morning routine literally consists of sitting on the floor, playing like a kid, dancing, doing whatever it is that I feel like I need to do to get that human aspect out before I deal with people. Reducing stress, improve productivity. When you were stressed, and I was literally just talking to my girlfriend who's in the back, hi Cherie, we were talking about this during lunch. If you are not centered on yourself, and if you are not practicing mindfulness, you're kind of not really of any good to anybody. Like, you are so much more productive when you come somewhere centered, when you come somewhere grounded, and when you're actually ready to conquer the day and you're not feeling overwhelmed by everything. Like, you actually do better as an employee. So I think about that time at my former company when I needed to take a break and sit in the corner and everything worked out so much better for the company as a whole because I was able to take myself out of the equation, but also put myself into the equation and figure out how I wanted it to go. Improved relationships. So I also think that this is kind of a non-brainer, but we have to have relationships outside of our jobs. We have to have relationships with our children, with our spouses, with our significant others. And if you can't show up as your whole self in those relationships, it can take a toll. So practicing mindfulness will help in that regard, and it will also help in the regard of relationships with your coworkers as well, because I know mindfulness, I'm ready to snap off somebody's head, and it's not necessarily their fault. They have a right to send me an email, it's cool, but you have to get centered before attacking the world or for going for your daily tasks. And authenticity. I actually think that this is one of the most important things that can come with mindfulness. As I stated before, we wear the mask of lawyer. We wear the mask of so many other things. But if you get to the depth of who you actually are as a person and who it is, and what is it that you actually like? For a long time, I didn't know what I liked outside of going to happy hour with my coworkers. I didn't know the clothes that I like to wear outside of, okay, well, let me wear this outfit because I think my vice president is going to like it and maybe it'll help me get a raise. I don't know. To really take a second, and I did this during the pandemic when everything slowed down. I literally did an inventory on my life and I said, okay, who is Yvonne Renae Heard? What is it that she likes to do? How is it that she likes to dress? How is it that she likes to show up in the world? Is where I am right now, does this match that version of myself? And if it doesn't match that version of myself, then okay, that's the first note. It's like, okay, we know this. Now it's time to change and figuring out what needs to change. Is it the job that needs to change? Is it, where you live that needs to change? Is it how much time you're spending with yourself? But I really think that authenticity is such a huge component to mindfulness and to being yourself and to being an effective lawyer. Like, I don't think that I would be nearly as great of a lawyer if I felt like I was a cookie cutter version of everybody else. But I think oftentimes in this world, we're kind of taught to do that. We're kind of taught to be, to think a certain way, to write a certain way, to, and no, we're all individuals. And that's what makes us great. Okay, so now we're gonna get into some how things. How is it that you get mindful? How is it that you master your thoughts? And here are a couple of things. The first thing is minding your words. Minding your words, minding what comes out of your mouth. I can say, I hate my job. I can say, oh my God, I hate my boss, she's so annoying, or this person gets on my nerves, or every time Jim emails me, it's always something stupid. I can say those things, but you have to remember when the words that you say affect your thoughts, they affect your inner being, which then affects your trajectory out into the world. So there's a reason that they call spelling spells. Every time you are saying things, you're actually kind of casting a bit of a spell, believe it or not. Your words matter. So sometimes I catch myself. Sometimes I want to call Jim from accounting annoying, but I catch myself and I'm like, you know what? It's all good. Jim is just doing his job. So minding your words is a big thing, and it's not something that we really think about. I think we're kind of taught to just especially as lawyers, we just say what we think. But taking a second and saying, is this phrase actually going to serve me? And forget about HR. This is just even you being in your office. Is what I'm saying and what I'm thinking actually going to serve me? The next thing is breath work. So a lot of us don't breathe. And I know this because I realized that I wasn't breathing. When I contracted COVID back in 2020, and I had to learn how to rebuild my lungs. And I realized that a lot of the breathing that we do is very stagnant and it's superficial. So there are a ton of videos on YouTube about breath work and taking a few minutes and just focusing in on different types of breathing techniques. This is a way to master mindfulness, because at that point, you're not thinking about the mess that's going on in the world. You're thinking about your breath. You're focusing on your breath. And the next thing are affirmations. So affirmations are these positive words. It's I always win, I always do great, blah, 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 blah. But the key to affirmations is that you actually have to believe them. You can't just say, I'm great and I'm wonderful and the world belongs to me and not believe it. That does absolutely nothing. The emotion behind your words matters so much. I have a saying, I do this little dance in the morning, and I have a saying that I'm rich, happy, healthy, wealthy, blessed, and loved. And I just repeat that. And I do this thing dancing to the smooth jazz song in my house every single morning, because I'm literally speaking to myself. That's an affirmation, but I'm doing it with feeling. I'm doing it with emotion. And you don't have to do that. You may hate smooth jazz, but I would suggest to you to get in front of the mirror, or just talk yourself into greatness when you can. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about meditation. So the images that we saw on the screen previously, those were of people, quote unquote, meditating. And those images were accurate. Those people were engaged, I guess, in quote unquote meditation. But meditation can actually be so many things. It doesn't have to be this situation where, you're sitting and you're trying to quiet your thoughts. And for most people, that doesn't work. You can't quiet your thoughts. Your thoughts are your thoughts, because we live in this world. We are affected by so many things. We're affected by so many, outside forces. So you can't just sit up there unless you're a yogi in the mountains and, there's complete silence and you can't do it. It's just not a thing. So I wanted to highlight some different ways to engage in meditation. So the first way is a guided meditation. There are numerous guided meditations on YouTube, and we're actually going to do a guided meditation once we're kind of wrapping up here. But this is a good way to kind of focus in on parts of your body, focus in on parts of, your surroundings. But the reason why this works for mindfulness is because you're literally kind of like getting away from the mess that is like the spiraling thoughts. Because that's all we're trying to do. All we're trying to do is become self-aware and get away from the spiraling thoughts that are not serving us. That's really all it is. The other way is walking. So I know for me, sometimes when I'm getting emails and things are crazy, I just get up and walk away. I get up and walk away from my computer. I go for a walk outside. Sometimes I don't even bring my phone. Sometimes I'm not even listening to music. I'm just literally just like zoning out. And I realized that when I would do this and I would come back and look at that email looked differently. The problem that was presented to me beforehand was no longer really a problem. It was like, I was like, why was I concerned about that? Or sometimes the issue would be solved by the time I got back to my desk. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. The next way is body awareness. Dr. Joseph Dispenza has some amazing body awareness meditations on YouTube. I would highly recommend listening to him if you're not familiar with him. But body awareness is essentially taking in and focusing on certain parts of your body. So your head, your shoulders, your chest, your legs, because when you're thinking about these things, actually when you do these things, you're not thinking about it. So like, for an example, everybody right now, like if you can't, it's fine. But everybody, if you can, stand up. I'm gonna do it with you. Okay, now sit back down. Believe it or not, that was just a mindfulness practice. And the reason that it was a mindfulness practice is because you weren't thinking about how to stand up. There was no thought associated with it. You just did it. It's like, okay, I gotta stand up. This lady asked me to stand up, so I don't wanna look crazy in front of everybody, so I'm gonna stand up. But that in and of itself is mindfulness, because you're literally like tapping into your body, you're tapping into the present moment, and you're not overthinking. And the last form of meditation is mantra. So mantra is like the concept of those people that we saw like with their legs crossed and they're sitting like this. Like that is a mantra meditation. Like a lot of times people say, they say a phrase over and over and over again. That is a mantra meditation. That is a way to meditate. It's not my favorite way to meditate. It feels hard to me, so I don't do that. But these are just some examples of how to practice mindfulness. Okay, the next one is body movement. So I was talking about dancing earlier. A lot of times I will pause when I'm talking to my team, I will literally pause and say, okay, get up, we're having a dance party. I do that. Yes, it's fun. Lawyers dancing is a fun time. I promise you it is. The next is just walking and running, kind of similar to what we were talking about earlier. Stretching. Stretching is number one. I mean, everybody should be stretching. If you're not stretching, it's a really good thing to do so you don't get all stiff. But that's also a way to practice mindfulness, because you're literally centering in on your body. You're centering in on the present moment as opposed to thinking about the other things that are going on. And just stepping away from the screen. Like, I am very grateful for my first ever supervisor when I became corporate counsel told me, she was like, I read the study and it said you're supposed to get up like every 30 minutes and, step away from the screen. And for me, that gave me permission to do so. So stepping away from the screen, just stepping away from it, even if it's going to the other room for a little bit, that's a way to practice mindfulness. And I would say one of the biggest things that we should be doing that we're not doing enough is visualization and daydreaming. Just like that situation that I was telling you about earlier, when I had the situation at work and I sat in the corner and I visualized how I wanted the circumstance to happen. This is something that we should be doing daily, but we should be doing this when it comes to just our lives in general. So what I mean by that is, how do you want to show up in the world? What is your next move? What is the highest, greatest version of yourself? Because we should all be seeking the highest, greatest version of ourselves at all times, whatever that is. And that's different for every single person in this room. But when we were kids, we would tap into our imaginative spaces and we would envision what we wanted to be. There's nobody in this room that became a lawyer without daydreaming and visualization. That didn't happen. Like, everything was literally a thought on the screen of your mind, and then you took the steps to get there, and then here you are. So it doesn't really matter what it is you want to accomplish in life. This is a tool that everybody needs to be doing. And like I said, it's not something that we talk about, it's not something that we encourage, but I would say every morning when you wake up, the first thing that you should be doing is tapping into the screen of your mind and thinking about what it is you want. How do you want your day to look? Who do you want to be next? Because you're already that person. But so often we worry. So often we think about the 5 million things that could happen, the things that we don't want to happen, but we don't realize how powerful our minds are. When you're worrying, there's a saying that says worrying is praying for the things that you don't want. It's true. So instead, practice visualization and daydreaming in the morning, and I would also say practice it before you go to bed at night. Like, who is it that you want to show up as? What is it that you want to accomplish? Like, what is it that, like, whatever it is, have that on the screen of your mind. So now we're going to do a little bit of a guided visualization technique. I'm super excited for this. So here's the thing. There's no right or wrong way to do this. This is individual. This is something that is very specific for everybody and each individual in this room. But right now, I want you to think about, and if you have something to write it down with, you can write it down too, but just thinking about it is fine because your thoughts are powerful. But I want you to think about your next level self. I'm just going to use this as an example. Think of your next level self. If there's something that you want to accomplish next in life, and I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's, learning Chinese. I don't care if it's, that next promotion at your job. Like, whatever it is, I want you to think about that, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes. So everybody close your eyes. So I want you to get comfortable in your chair. I want you to hold your palms upright, so in a receiving mode, so you're ready to receive whatever energy it is. Now I want you to imagine a funnel of golden light. And this funnel of golden light is funneling around your head. And it's circling, and it's circling. And then that same funnel of golden light is going into your head. So you feel it. You feel the funnel of light. You see the funnel of light going inside of your head. And you feel this energy in your body. You now feel this funnel of golden light going through your shoulders. You now feel this funnel of golden light going through your chest and your arms. You feel it in your legs. You feel it in your feet. You are completely immersed in this energy. Now I want you to imagine that you're looking at an iPad. And in that iPad, you're watching yourself. You're watching yourself and you are doing whatever it is that you want to be doing. This is your highest version of yourself. This is the highest and greatest version of you. You see yourself doing whatever it is. You notice, what are you wearing? How are you talking? How are you standing? Who's with you? What's the environment that you're in? So you're feeling this information, you're feeling this energy. And then you're going to hop inside of the iPad. So jump inside of the iPad. And now I want you to focus in on what you see. Who do you see? Who's looking at you? Where are you? What are you saying? How are you feeling in this very moment? What are you wearing? What are people saying back to you? This is you. Whatever it is that you are seeing right now is already in existence. It's already there for you. It's already here. You are already this person. Feel all the goodness of being your highest and greatest self. It feels good, doesn't it? It feels amazing. There's not a care in the world. There are no issues. Jim from accounting is not emailing you. You are literally doing whatever it is that you want to be doing at this very moment, right now. So now I want you to jump back out of that iPad, and now you're holding the iPad and you're looking at yourself. How does it feel? How do you feel right now looking at your version of yourself on that iPad? How do you feel seeing that vibrant color? How does it feel knowing that your friends, your family, everybody is so proud of you? How does it feel to know that you are literally setting the world on fire and that everything that you're supposed to be doing right now is in alignment with your true self? So I want you to come back up. I want you to open your eyes, and I want you to embrace that feeling and take this with you. Take this practice with you. You can literally do this at any point in time, but it is so important because literally we are taught to worry. Worry doesn't do anything for you, but tapping into your highest and greatest self will always be a winner. So yeah, are there any questions about mindfulness? And don't be shy, because I've had y'all get up, I've had y'all close y'all's eyes and do all types of stuff, so do not be shy. You can ask me anything. Yes, sir. No, it's so true. And I that's such a good point. There are so many different avenues for mindfulness: biking, crossword puzzles. There is a spiritual guru by the name of Jerry and Esther Hicks. They channel somebody, it gets a little complicated. They channel a spirit named Abraham Hicks, whatever. But if you ever heard of the book The Secret or the movie The Secret, that was based on the teachings of Abraham. And Jerry and Esther Hicks would always say, like, even rapping, like when rappers rap, they go into meditative spaces. So it's literally a matter of figuring out what is the space for you. Like, what is it that makes you light up? So I love the fact that you are aware that you are being in a meditative space and you are being in a mindfulness space when you do that. So that's incredible. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Or you just gotta be push yourself?
You know what? I think that well, first of all, there was one thing that you said that I wanted to harp on. There's also this toxic, to me, there's this toxic energy that says that you have to be positive all the time. None of this is really dealing with positivity, because quite frankly, you're creating, and regardless if you're positive or negative, it doesn't matter. Like, and we are not designed to be positive all the time. So I guess what I would say to that is, no, you shouldn't push yourself. I don't think that you should push yourself, because I think that you should listen to your body, unless you take a second and you can hone in on why it is that you don't feel like walking at that particular time. So I know for me, sometimes if it's like raining outside, I don't necessarily like taking a walk in the rain, even though that's actually really good for you. But you know, it can go both ways. But I think that we can be very, very hard on ourselves in general. Mindfulness is a way of not being hard on yourself. So if you don't want to walk, maybe do something else. You know, like you could literally, visualize. You could literally do some breath work. Like, there's so many other things that you can do, and there's so many resources available, especially if you got YouTube. Honey, you can go to town with some mindfulness techniques, okay? So I wouldn't push yourself, because maybe there's a reason you don't want to walk at that point in time, and that's okay. That's okay.
You feel like if you support yourself.
Exactly. And that
Do something else.
exactly. And that is not fulfilling the mindfulness void at all. It's actually causing more anxiety, and now you're mad at yourself because you weren't doing the thing that you feel like you should be doing. And so a lot of it is honestly just taking away the expectations that we have of ourselves. I mean, take away the expectations you have of other people, but definitely take away the expectations you have of yourself. Like, if you don't make a workout you know, and that's your way of that's your way of getting mindfulness, but you get caught up in a moment, don't just, okay, we're gonna do something the next day, or we're gonna do something an alternative. It's okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I love mindfulness, and there's a lot of like YouTube videos out there where it's like 10 minutes of like standing up and stretching, or like you mentioned, sitting at your desk, or just something like that. So I sometimes use that, and so maybe I couldn't achieve like a 30 minutes moving for like the 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
Like it makes me calm. Like
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Use your resources. And in all honesty, I think it's a good thing for us to sometimes get out of our routine and try new things. So if you're used to walking, maybe, I don't know, like put on a Tai Chi video. See if that, like, you know, like, but literally, it's like there is literally a world of possibility, but we can be on autopilot so easily. Like, it's literally, and we're taught to be on autopilot. We're taught to, you know, like, get up, you do this, repeat, get up. Like there's a big world out there, and there are so many possibilities. And the only thing that's stopping you from it is your brain. So listen to yourself. Like if you don't feel like walking, cool. Like I'm gonna put in this Pilates, this girl doing these yoga poses. Like whatever it is you feel like doing. Start with.
Yeah, I think this goes with mindfulness. I remember a while ago someone told me like something's really scenarios in the perspective.
Yeah, you know what I would say to that? There's a couple things with that. It can be. But if you're gonna write it down, I would suggest either burning up the paper or tearing it up with the worst possible case scenario, because we are not giving that energy to the universe that this is what we want to happen. But if you, now, what you could also do is you could also write down the worst possible case scenario, but then right next to it, write why that's absolutely ridiculous and why this is, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. No, but that's, you know, another thing is writing, like writing, journaling. I didn't put that up in there, but journaling, writing is a big thing. And for me personally, that's never really been super my ministry, but I am getting into journaling, like free thought journaling when I wake up in the morning just to like dump my thoughts out. And it's actually been like super helpful. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think thanking.
Yes.
But just being.
That is grateful. Gratitude is literally one of the biggest components, I think, in the concept of mindfulness and in the manifestation world, 100%. Because it's easy to look at what's happening immediately in front of you and saying, oh my God, this is terrible. But if you think about it, you know, like, especially us in this room, like there are some people that this doesn't apply to, but you know, we're fully clothed. Like we have employment probably. Like we have people in our life that care about us. We have like, and you're so right. Like I literally, even if Jim from accounting gets on my nerves, I still say, you know what, but I'm grateful for this job. Like there are so many things that I am grateful for. So that is such a good point that you brought up. And it is like a huge component in, you know, solidifying your space in this world. So yeah, so that is Mindfulness 101. We have like 8 more minutes to kill, but I thank you all. Once again, I'm Yvonne Renae Heard, Manifestation Mentor, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.